to convene the August 21st, 2017 regular meeting of the Sonoma City Council. Could I please have Edison and Oliver Kennard step to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All please rise.
Show me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And someone just told me that both of you are Eagle Scouts? You're working for it. Good luck with that. Madam Clerk, could I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington.
Here.
Councilmember Agramonte. Mayor Hunley.
Here.
Thank you.
For our report on closed session, Ms. City Manager, do we have a report today?
Yes, Mayor Hunley, as you know, in council, we met in closed session regarding labor negotiations, and we did not finish our discussion. We will continue after the meeting. Thank you.
Item number 1, comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It is recommended that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, unless otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act, the merits of the matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the City Council at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for council consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the mayor, please step to the podium, speak into the microphone. Begin by stating and spelling your name.
Ken Brown, 1396 Lubeck Street, B-R-O-W-N. Oh, I come tonight with a lot of mixed emotions. I'm concerned about the state of America and our government in Washington, but I'm concerned about our government here in Sonoma as well. I'm a neighbor of the Saha project on Broadway. I've been a lifelong affordable housing advocate. I live in that neighborhood, and I have concerns about how our neighborhood is going to change. I have concerns about my commission seat. I'm still unclear. Am I a commissioner? Will I have to reapply? Will we get some new commissioners? It's a concern. I'm concerned about the water rates in the city of Sonoma. On a positive note, our reaction to our being at the farmers market and at the city party and in general out in the community, as far as our efforts to have the city of Sonoma welcome a medicinal cannabis company and a delivery service to the city of Sonoma, that lightens my heart. We have gotten an overwhelming positive response. But these other items have me concerned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Corrado, First Street East. Rebecca, you know my last name, C-O-R-R-A-D-O. I'm just going to circle back on what I spoke about the last time I was up here. And I have notes, and I've taken some research, and I had them then, and they're not in any real good order. But they come from the EPA and Growth for Small Cities. And if you go to that website and scroll down to small towns and rural communities, you can go on forever. And they've got case studies of 10 cities that were successful in their planned growth. So I'm just going to read bits and pieces, and then I'll leave it with Kathy so you can have it afterwards. Successful communities retool their economies by engaging residents, business owners, and other stakeholders to develop a vision for the community's future. Stakeholder engagement helps ensure that plans reflect the community's desires, needs, and goals, and generates public support that can maintain momentum for implementing changes through election cycles and city staff turnover. and this is the heart of mine. A successful citizens advisory or a citizen-based task team would be comprised of city staff, consultants, the planning commission, the council, and the public. And with the community-supported comprehensive plan to guide development decisions, the city could move forward with confidence. None of the communities profiled in the EPA study implemented all the changes overnight. A long-range plan is necessary to guide work over many years. Then it goes on about restaurants and pubs, and I'm going to include wine tasting rooms, are great for small towns, but their presence can actually have a negative effect if they become too numerous. Throw in competition for parking spots, and you will see that finding the right mix of eateries and retail is essential. Okay, I see the clock is ticking. Ann Markison from the University of Minnesota offers a strong argument and empirical evidence supporting the notion that art-based economic development can drive growth and development, especially in small towns and rural areas, and that the base strategies can attract outside dollars and alter consumption towards local products. And maintaining the places and institutions that make a community special contribute to a sense of place and neighborhood identity, which help retain existing residents and can attract new residents and businesses. And it's in part because entities with different missions work together to make a city a better place to live and work, and cooperation within the community. And I did it under 3 minutes, twice in a row now.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gail Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, and I live on Clay Street in Sonoma. And I'm here asking you tonight to consider declaring a moratorium on all building projects in Sonoma for the next 6 to 12 months, while the new Planning Commission has a chance to get up to speed on each and every project. These are projects that will forever alter this city, and it's your responsibility as our elected representatives to make sure that informed decisions are made concerning these monumental projects. In our neighborhood, we have taken a survey of the neighbors, and 100% of the respondents agree that a moratorium needs to be considered. In terms of the Planning Commission, if they are all dismissed, quote unquote fired, and rehired or reappointed, even so, they still need to get up to speed and have a chance to meet with members of the community as well as our elected officials and our government to know what these projects are all about. The commission could be newly appointed, and it's my belief that these members need time to study these projects. I think it's unfair to ask this of them to make these difficult decisions without a length of time for them to get up to speed. I think this feeling is shared by many in the community and has little to do with the projects themselves, but rather everything to do with the well-informed decisions of our Planning Commission for this city. I want to thank you for considering this request, and I hope to hear from you in the near future regarding this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Metzler, M-E-T-Z-L-E-R. I live at 1110 Friar Creek Drive, and I just wanted to just talk with you, with the City Council, about how positive I feel about the effective functioning of our local government compared to what's going on in Washington, D.C. It's nice to see local government that's actually working with the community. Anyway, I'm a member of your Community Services Environmental Commission, and I just wanted to give you guys some feedback about what we're doing on the commission. We're doing a lot of work to try and meet the charge that we have seen about trying to encourage more sustainable development, more sustainable activities in the city, and we are really working towards trying to get the city of Sonoma to be a regional leader in sustainable special events and sustainable activities within the city. And I am just really curious or wondering what's the status of the commissions. And I just really, I'm here because I really like to encourage you guys to make a decision and let us know, what's happening with the commissions. Are we going to have to reapply, or is there going to be new, and what the new process is? Anyway, we're still continuing and moving forward with the activities of the Community Services and Environmental Commission to try and see that more positive activities are going on with the reducing the city's greenhouse gas contributions that are generated by special events. And I just really wanted to encourage the City Council to proceed with the process of letting us know what the status is on a commission. And I got a lot of paperwork on my desk at home and on my computer, and I don't know whether I should proceed with this because I don't know if there's going to be a commission, if I have to reapply, or what is the status. So I just wanted to encourage you guys to proceed with the process of whatever you decide you're going to do, but let us know what the status is of the Community Services and Environmental Commission and the Planning Commission and other commissions within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Your Eminence, members of the City Council. My name is Richard Silver, Silver, 95 Bernhardt Avenue, Sonoma. As you all know, or many of you do, I'm a new resident of this community. And I think myself as a member of a community, and as I was in San Francisco for 37 years, actually 46 years. One of the things that's come up over my short tenure here as a resident is the sense of people feeling disconnected from those who are elected to govern and lead them. And so without anything specific, I'm asking, as we did in San Francisco when I lived in the community there, for the electorate to feel that there is a relationship, the vision of a future that is inclusive of people who've lived here for many, many years, those like myself and others who are new to the area, and those who are what I would refer to as weekend transients, who have the ability to purchase and come and enjoy the place, and may or may not become permanent residents. So I'm amplifying what the speakers before me said, that people like myself and those of long standing here, and even young people, look to all of you for leadership and guidance with a vision. Your hand is on the tiller. How far can you see? What kind of community, what kind of environment would you all like to share with your family, your colleagues, and those of us who come in and out of the community, as well as those of us who do business here? So my hope is that you will, over the next period of time, given what we had this morning, which was a way that the galaxy said to us, take a moment and pause, think about our insignificance in relation to the universe itself, and think of our significance in relationship to one another. We are not going to be here very long, and I would hope that each of you would feel that together you can have something that you look back on when you're my age and say, we feel good about the vision, we feel good about being open to listen to the community in almost the same way that an ombudsman would be. And I don't think the community has one, but it's an interesting thing to ponder. That type of place that someone can come and say, here are my concerns, in addition to City Council. And I hope you'll activate on that. Lastly, I do support having a medical cannabis facility for people like myself and others, and my nonagenarian friend here. And thank you for your time and your consideration, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hi, David Eicher, Leamington, Loma Court. And I think, I know I've heard some speakers about the commissions coming up and they're wondering what's happening. I know that you can't be definitive and tell them exactly. I know you have some ideas, but it sounds like a little more communication about what you have so far, would be helpful. And I would like to encourage you to reappoint all, if not most, if not all, the members on the Community Service Environmental Commission. I think they're doing great work, especially moving forward with what Matt mentioned in terms of trying to reduce the use of plastic for events within the city. And by the way, a thank you for the city party. It was great fun by, I think, everyone that was there. Even had a friend whose mother just moved from the Midwest here that day. She was 87, and she really enjoyed it and got a kick out of it her first day in Sonoma, and that was a great way to welcome her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Carden, 706 5th Street East. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but I hear the issue of the medical marijuana thing. I hope that this council views the negative effects of this on our community and on our children and all the neighbors around people that are growing the horrible stuff. I hope that you all really look at the negative impacts on the rest of us. Unfortunately, I've had to live next to a grow, and it's a horrible thing to live next to. You got young children, you go out in the yard and work, you have to live with the effects of it. So, just like you to keep that in mind when you're going over this. I had no idea it was coming up. So, and the other few people who spoke about a few things about environment, I'd like you all to do a little research.
If you could address your comments to me, please.
You'll find carbon is your friend. Okay? You'll find carbon is your friend.
Thank you.
I had no idea I was going to speak tonight. My name is Neva Baer, Nevabaer. I live on 552 Siesta Way. Last night I listened to a MoveOn.org phone meeting concerning what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. And they were talking about things that we can do, local action in our own communities on what we can say and do to help the situation. So they were asking people to join and help save DACA, because right now Jeff Sessions and other governors and other congresspeople are trying to do away with DACA. And I think what everybody here in the room knows what DACA is. It's the Dreamers Act to keep young immigrants here who are undocumented to get an education, pursue their dreams, develop their potential. Much to my amazement, when I went to sign up to join an action group here in the community, I found that there was not a local action group for Sonoma. So I volunteered to try and organize one, and I've never done anything like this before. Basically, they're going to help me, but my first thing I need to do is I need to start gathering people who are willing to join the organization or the local chapter. So it would be too difficult for me to get all your email addresses tonight. So I'm inviting each and every one of you to text me or send me an email and tell me if you're interested in being part of this local chapter to save DACA. And I want to give you my email address is, it's HEYNEEV@hotmail.com. And I will contact you, I will make a list, and the first thing we're going to do is develop a petition to send to our congresspeople and tell them that we want them to say DACA. And we really don't have a lot of time to do this because it's going to come up in the agenda in Congress on September 5th. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment today? Seeing none, I will bring it back. Next up, we have meeting dedications. Mr. Cook.
I don't have a dedication, but I just wanted to have an announcement. 2 weeks ago from tonight, I was in a hospital room awaiting my 2 twins to be delivered. On August 8th, they were born, very healthy. So I just wanted to tell my wife that she's a trooper, and to have twins at 37 weeks, she carried term as far as she did a great job, and we have 2 healthy boys, Christopher and Everett. And with the Kennard twins sitting here, it's like I'm looking at my future. So thanks for being here.
And are there any dedications today? Seeing none. And I don't know if it's too late, but I do know we have a couple dates that we know about that's related to some of the public comment that we had. Oh, no. I thought of it too. Did you want to mention your group?
Apropos of the last public comment that was made, a group of us in Sonoma have formed a little organizing committee, and we wanted to hold an event to build community here in light of what happened in Charlottesville, and that's going to happen on September the 3rd at 1 o'clock at Larson Park. It's on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. And it's called Committing to Community. For anybody who'd like to join, we'd love to have people help us coordinate planning, but it'll be a day to just have the community come together, all of us, broader community, not just the small town of Sonoma, and for families and everybody to get together at Larson Park. So if you want information, you can contact me or go on our Facebook page, but we would love to have everyone come out and have a good day.
And then I also know we have a date for our next commissions-related discussion, and I don't know if we've solidified the study session date. It's okay.
No, we are. So we'll be coming back hopefully September 6th to finalize the council's discussion about commissions. That's been an item that's been talked, been a lot of conversation about. And we are hoping to talk about cannabis on September 11th. I still need to finally confirm that, but that date is what it's shaping up. So the council will have 3 meetings in September. September 6th, since Monday's a holiday, that'll be a regular meeting. September 11th is the date that I'm 90% sure will be a conversation about cannabis. And then the following Monday will be another regular meeting. So, and then a couple of members of the public talked about kind of general plan or visioning and community and coming together and having some of those stakeholder conversations. Some of that honestly is wrapped up within the city's general plan process, which will be starting in 2018. And that's really, talking about vision and what community do we want to be. So some of those conversations are coming up in the near future.
Thank you. Next item is going to be 3.1, proclamation proclaiming August 26, 2017 as Women's Equality Day in the city of Sonoma. And I would like to invite Neva Bear to meet me right up at the podium. Thank you for being here. I feel like a game show host. Women's Equality Day, August 26, 2017. Whereas on August 26, 2017, we mark the 97th anniversary of the enactment of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which secured the right to vote for women. And whereas in 1976, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors established one of the first commissions on the status of women in the state of California with the purpose of promoting equal rights and opportunities that enhance the quality of life for all women and girls, and addressing the issues of discrimination and prejudice that negatively affect women in Sonoma County. And whereas women now constitute nearly 50% of our workforce, the majority of students in our colleges and graduate schools, and an increasing number of primary breadwinners. And whereas even with the gains women have made, work remains to be done in many areas, especially regarding equal pay for equal work. Now, therefore, I, Rachel Hunley, Mayor of the City of Sonoma, do hereby proclaim August 26, 2017 as Women's Equality Day, marking the 97th anniversary of the enactment of the 19th Amendment, celebrating the achievements of women and recommitting to realizing gender equality in the City of Sonoma, including equal pay for equal work. I'd like to present you with this proclamation today. And would you like to say a few words?
I'm doing this on behalf of Joanne Brown, so I want to thank Joanne and this on behalf of the women of Sonoma. Thank you.
Item number 4, approval of the agenda. If anybody would like to suggest some changes or make a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte. Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Mayor Hunley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 5, the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. At this time, council may decide to change the order of the agenda. Anything? At this time, I'm going to go out to the public for public comment.
Good evening. I'm Maria Toymill, president of the Vintage Festival. And I came here tonight to thank the council for considering the waivers for the fees, for some of the fees for the event. It is really showing me and our volunteer board of directors that the city and the city council are supporting us, and that it's just making us feel so much better than we did in the past years. So I just want to say that on behalf of the board, it just warms our heart to know, Ann, that you know you're really behind us now. And Lisa's not here tonight, but she has been just an extreme help, and she's helping us in the background get some of our information to other places that wouldn't listen to us before, and because we have changed over the years, and this is unprecedented. So we're just very, very pleased, and just want to thank you very much for your help. I also brought some of our sponsor and participation guides. I'll leave them with you guys. If anybody wants to participate, if you want to volunteer, you can go to our website, click on I want to volunteer, and it'll take you to another little website where you can choose a small task like checking people's IDs for 2 hours, or a large task like loading and unloading a truck full of stuff. So we encourage everyone to come out and help, because this is a community event put on by the community.
Thank you. Any further public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for discussion and action.
I was going to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second that.
And I just wanted to make a comment before we approve this. I will be supporting the Heritage event, which is the festival, and just for public to understand that this is a long time in the making, and I want to thank past council members and my colleagues on the council for recognizing these heritage events and being able to help them out. And I think that helping them helps us back. So I just want to thank you for all your work, and we definitely support you.
Just want to say one last thing. I remember your last visit was not a happy visit, and I'm so glad to see your smile. It's so nice to be able to do that, and I agree with you 100% about Lisa Jansen. She makes sense out of nonsense. She's amazing. Thank you, and I'm glad, happy for you.
And I'm happy we have two of our perhaps soon to be classified as heritage events tonight, even though we're going to figure out that program in a couple weeks. But we also have Nuestra Voz, our celebration for Mexican Independence Day, that is also on here. So we have a motion, we have a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Cook?
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte?
Aye.
Mayor Harrington, or Councilmember Harrington?
Aye.
Mayor Henley?
You can have my gavel. All right, item 6.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to adopt a resolution relating to refuse rate adjustment with city franchise Sonoma Garbage Company Incorporated to be effective for the billing period beginning October 1st, 2017. At this time, I am going to hand it over to our city manager.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Hunley and council and members of the community. So in November 2016, there was, the franchise agreement was updated with our local refuse hauler, Sonoma Garbage Company. And within that franchise, it lays out a proposed a rate methodology and calculation process. And so the proposed rate in front of you was to determine using that rate index. And so what you have, basically, we're asking you to hold a public hearing and then accept the proposed rate adjustments, which is a total of 4.56%, and the schedule is attached to the staff report. So this is a public hearing, so you will need to formally open and close the public hearing. You're ready to do so. Thank you.
All right. At this time, are there any council questions?
I don't know if the city manager knows this or not, but when was the last rate increase and how much was it?
I apologize, I don't know that. My staff person who was here had a family emergency and had to leave, and she did have that information, but I don't have that at my fingertips. But I do know it's been less than 4.5%, so the rates have been quite modest with this local hauler historically. Yeah, maybe individuals in the audience who can help answer that question too.
And I'll give me 1 second. Any more questions? And then I'm going to open the public hearing. And perhaps first we can hear from the person who knows the answer to our question.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Ken Wells. I'm here to represent Sonoma Garbage Collectors and to try to answer your question. And I didn't bring those notes either, but it was July 1st, 2016. And don't hold me to the exact number. It was about 3%, 2.5%. So. Thank you. And that was through the refuse rate index. Primarily the tipping fees at the landfill have been going up. And if there are any other questions relating to the increase of the services, we're here to answer those. Otherwise, I'll step back and let the public speak.
Thank you for being here. Is there any further public comment on this item?
Hi, Matt Metzler. I'm pleased to see someone from Sonoma Garbage Company. Sonoma Garbage Collectors is here because with the research I've done on the Community Services Environmental Commission, I've had a lot of questions about recycling, composting, what happens to our waste in the city. I've heard rumors that I have not done spent a lot of time online that I've not been able to confirm about what happens to plastic waste that is collected by Sonoma County waste haulers. And I'm wondering if the representative from Sonoma Garbage Company can answer that question for us. Is our plastic waste going to the landfill, or is it, because I understand the research I have done is there is no market. You know, years ago, the plastic waste was going to China, and because of low commodity prices, there is the virgin plastic, the polymers that are used to make plastic is cheaper when it comes from virgin sources than it is from recycled plastic, and that there is no market for recycled plastics. I don't know if that's appropriate, if you can answer that question for us.
Sure, I'm going to wait till at the very end of our public hearing, and then I'm writing down all the questions, and I will ask them.
I just, you know, I'd like to know. And I think there was an article in the Chronicle today, and we are one of the only 2 communities in the county that does not use Ratto Group. It's now going to be Recology. So it's really depends upon what it's a very local issue that varies a lot by cities and by counties in the Bay Area. But I would be very interested to know what is happening with our plastic recycling in Sonoma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Slow. I left my cane at home.
I am honored by your presence here today.
You people know me, you know. Rosary Padronzini, 437 2nd Street West. And don't start this 3-minute because my name's so goddamn long. Okay, I've been here before. I'm taking care of my husband. I'm not in good health. And God bless it. Corrados, I want you to okay what they want to do to the city for the garbage. I'm going back. I lived on 2nd Street West. Don't shut me off now, Mayor. Lived there 71 years. I've lived in Sonoma, lived there 58 years. I married my husband. He's been born here 84 years ago. He doesn't come here because I'm motor mouth. Well, too bad. Somebody in the family's got to speak up. And Gary, just look at me, you know, I'm a pain in your all ass. But Corrado wants an increase, and I want you to approve it. What I'm reading in the PD, what's going on with Raffo and Santa Rosa, my kids live out in El Verano, and they're going to pay through the nose. But Corrado, I'm giving you a lot of history, goddammit. I worked at Adobe Drug 1950 when I got out of high school, and John's father used to come in the back of my garage with a sack. Like in my dad in San Francisco, put the garbage in, walk out. Now you put the cans out in the front. They have a hell of a job. And I recycle, I do everything, and all I want to say is approve this. You know what I want to say?
Yes.
I did meatloaf, mashed potatoes. My husband's like, I'm stupid ass, you know. I laugh at me. I'm just worn out, but I love you all. And I don't have the strength anymore to take our pickup and put the little stuff and go out to the dumps. You get on the scale and all this kind of da-da-da-da. So I put 3 cans every Wednesday out on 2nd Street West. And God bless my neighbors, Vicky and Frank, they're lazy love. If I'm not up in the morning, I'm getting old. I've got a lot of health problems, but God bless them. I used to pick 18 cans on Thursday morning to put them out because you got to clean the street. I'm too goddamn old. I got a lot of health problems and cancer problems. I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm going to shut up. I'm over my time. But please, okay, and let Corrados get the increase. God bless you all for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Padronzini.
Oh, God, Kennard, Jesus.
I'll be right back. Here, let me have your arm.
Yeah, hang me up.
No, I never.
I left the goddamn cane home.
That's all right. It's Tom Kennard again, 706 5th Street East. I'd like to thank the Corrados for their years of great service to this community, keeping it clean and keeping us in order. Their costs have gone up continually, an incredible amount. Whatever fees they ask are relatively cheap compared to the increases we've had at the dumps and everywhere else we go. So I'd like to be sure we have whatever increases they have approved. I have one more item I'd like to focus to a gentleman that spoke a moment ago. If you want to do a study on what goes to landfill, go to the dumps and get your hands dirty and open your eyes. You'll get to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment before I ask our question? So we have a question about plastic.
The collected plastics that come from the curbside program here in Sonoma are taken to the Napa processing center, where they're consolidated with tons and tons of other plastics, and they're put into the commodities market. As far as I know, they are all getting recycled. The market is very poor for plastics, but that just means you don't get as much money for it. It's still being recycled as long as it's cleaned and baled. And it goes into the commodity market. A lot of that is China. Some of it's Southern Asia. A little bit of stuff is done in California. We hope for more in the future, but right now it's mostly going offshore. And if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for the gentleman that has all the answers? At this time, I will close the public hearing and return to my council for discussion and an action. Mr. Cook.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma approving the refuse rate adjustments. And I do have one comment. I want to thank the Corrados. I think that they've done a great job, and it's one of the local businesses that we have, and I love the fact that Sonoma has its own garbage service. So thank you, and I'm glad that the increases are minimal, and I appreciate all your good work.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte. Aye. Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Mayor Hundley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all. It's amazing because I usually hear horror stories from cities about their waste collection, and ours is loved and adored.
Yeah.
Our next item is item 7.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to accept the 2016-17 annual report of the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District. Oh, I think that's the end of the title. At this point, I will start with the city manager.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Hundley and council, members of the community. So in June of 2012, the city of Sonoma formed a property-based improvement district, which is called the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District. And initially that was a 3-year term. And then in October of 2014, the council approved a renewal of that district, which currently now has a 10-year term and through June 2025. And at that time, there was an updated district management plan that was also approved. So the Tourism Improvement District is a benefit assessment that establishes money for the marketing and promotion efforts of Sonoma Lodging. And that TID includes hotels, motels, B&B, et cetera, within the boundaries of our community. So state law allows cities to create tourism improvement districts, and what you end up doing is the city partners with a nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, and actually there is a contract between the city and what's called the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District Corporation, and that corporation is charged and as part of both the city's contract and the management district plan to implement that management district plan. Then as part of the management district plan, the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District Corporation contracts with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau for doing a majority of the promotion, well, all the promotion and marketing programs that are associated with the funding. So as required by state law, the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District is required to present an annual report to the council at the end of each fiscal year within 30 days after, 2 calendar months after June 30. And so tonight we have Bill Blum, who is here, who will be representing the TID board, and Johnny Weston will also be from the Visitors Bureau, will be doing part of the presentation as well. I did want to acknowledge that the presentation, and I'm sure that Johnny and Bill will outline this as they go through it, there is one change in number from the fiscal year 12-13 that a member of the public brought up that, and this was number staff provided to the TID and was not accurate. So this was the contribution of what the TID actually collected in 12-13. So the staff report said it was 54,000. It was actually closer to 460,000. And so the updated numbers in the presentation tonight, that is the year that the city switched financial systems. So we thought we had pulled the information from both, but had missed a piece from the older financial system. So my apologies for that, but we did want to make sure we had the correct information in front of you tonight. So with that, I'll turn it to Bill Bloom.
Mr. Boom.
Hello, Mayor Huntley, City Council. My name is Bill Bloom. I'm the Secretary for the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District, and I'm here to present our annual report for the fiscal year 2016 and 2017. First, we'd like to thank our strategic partners, the City of Sonoma and the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau, who help us assist with our Sonoma Tourism Improvement District. And also, I'd like to introduce our board of directors. Norman Krug, who's our president, also the owner of the Sonoma Valley Inn. Melody Lanthorn Gale, the vice president, is also general manager at the Lodge at Sonoma. Dan Parks, our treasurer, is the owner of the Inn at Sonoma. I'm the secretary and general manager at MacArthur Place Hotel. Kayla Stewart, who is the owner of the El Pueblo Inn. And Zach Weinberg, owner of Cottage Inn and Spa, and president of the Sonoma Valley B&B Association, which is now actually called Stay Sonoma, and our city manager, Kathy Capriello. And who are here tonight if you have any questions. Just a little bit of a history about the TID. It was formed in July 1 of 2012 for a 3-year term, and it was renewed in July 1 of 2015 for a 10-year term. And I believe we're now in the second year of that 2-year term. The district for the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District is the Sonoma City Limits, and we collect a 2% assessment on all of our stays, overnight stays here in Sonoma from hotels, motels, B&Bs, and vacation rentals. So for example, at MacArthur Place, we put you pay actually a 12.25% on your hotel bill. 10% is the TOT that goes to the city's general fund. 2% is for the Tourism Improvement District, and we also pay a 0.25% assessment for the State of California Marketing Program. Some of the benefits of a tourism improvement district, and just a little bit about what is a tourism improvement district, because I often hear it referred to as a tax. It's not a tax, it's an assessment. It's an assessment that's determined by the owners of the lodging community. So you need a 51% of the lodging community to vote to form a district to assess themselves to charge their guests the 2%. And when we did that, we ended up with actually 100% of all lodging supporting the Tourism Improvement District. And then that money is used to fund a marketing program that generates overnight stays for Sonoma. That is the purpose of the sole purpose, actually, of the assessment. Listing here the benefits provides an economic benefit. It provides a stable source of funding for a destination-specific marketing program with the goal of increasing occupancy and room revenues at lodging properties within the city of Sonoma. It provides community support by maintaining or raising the current levels of transient occupancy tax and sales tax in the city limits of Sonoma. And it also allows for the funding of visitor services and events that promote overnight stays in Sonoma. Positioning, and it allows Sonoma to compete with other competitive destinations that attract visitors, like Napa, Monterey, San Francisco, Lake Tahoe, Mendocino, Healdsburg, Santa Rosa, Santa Barbara, and there are currently 88 tourism improvement districts in the state of California, all promoting their own individual destinations. The marketing and promotions funds are used for marketing marketing programs, increasing the occupancy and room revenues of Sonoma lodging properties with an ancillary benefit to the retail stores, the wineries, restaurants, and other tourism-related businesses, as well as the City of Sonoma's general fund.
I'm sorry, could someone close that back door? Thank you, Mr. Weston.
So just a little bit about how the money that we collect is spent. By our management district plan, which Kathy Capriello mentioned, which is our guiding guide that we use to operate the corporation, we have to spend 85% of our funds in marketing. And we use a minimal amount of funds, 2%, to maintain the TID. We don't have any overhead, no offices, no staff, no expenses other than our accounting, occasional legal expenses to renew the TID, and very other little expenses that amounts to 2%. Our other expense is 1% that we pay to the City of Sonoma to administer the Tourism Improvement District. Visitor services accounts for 13% of our total budget, and grants account for 7%, while marketing makes up 74% of the budget. Research and reports is 3%. For special events and projects, the 7% that we use for grants in the last year have included the Sonoma International Film Festival, the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival, which is here tonight, the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, and the Transcendence Theater Company. And for the Sonoma Community Center, we help fund the Trash and Fashion Show and their Visiting Ceramics program. Just a little bit of a comparison since we started the TID back in 2011 and 12 to today, 2016 and 17. When we started the program, the occupancy was 64% in Sonoma. That includes weekends and midweek. And as of last year, it's 72%, which has been a 12.5% increase. The off-season, which is our primary marketing goal, along with midweek group business, went from 52% to 61%, a 17.3% increase. And then the thing I think I'm the most proud of is that the TOT for the City of Sonoma since fiscal year 2011 and 12 has gone from $2.3 million to $3.7 million, almost a 58% increase in TOT revenues for the City of Sonoma. So when you look at this chart, it really, I think, tells the picture of what has happened since we formed the TID. For 6 years, back in 2006 and 7, the TOT for the City of Sonoma remained about 2.3 million, 2.4 million, dropped as low as 2 million during the recession. It never really grew much. In fact, it went down and then went back up again. Once the TID was formed, the first year of the TID, TOT increased 26%. And since that time, as I mentioned, it's increased 1.4 million. In fiscal year 2013 and 14, TOT for the City of Sonoma hit $3 million for the very first time. And you can see the bottom line in orange, the amount of TID that has increased. Since the city gets 10% of TOT collections and we charge 2%, we go up proportionately, but the 650, we started at 486,000 in our first year, and that was a little bit less because in that first year, anybody that had booked a room before July 1 for after July 1 did not get charged the TID. So that first year did not have a full collection in it. The second year, 650,000, and since then went up to 743,000. So in since fiscal year 13 and 14, when we're fully funded, the TID has gone up $95,000, and the City of Sonoma's general fund revenues from TOT have gone up $1.4 million. So we've had a 42% growth in TOT since before the inception of the TID. Occupancy levels have also grown nicely since the formation of the TID. I think you can see that the years before fiscal year 2012 and 13, occupancy in Sonoma was at a very unhealthy rate of low 60s, even into the 50s with the occupancy of the city during the recession years. Midweek, we were as low as 44% during the recession. Average occupancy during the off-season months was about 53%. Today, we're seeing an occupancy of 72% and a off-season occupancy of 61%. And I know sometimes we get accused of the city being burgeoning with tourists, but in reality, a 72% comparison to NAPA's 85% occupancy or the city of San Francisco's 90% occupancy is a very modest occupancy, 72%, but it provides a nice revenue for the city of Sonoma. And I just would like to say that there have been no new hotels in Sonoma since 2002. Dan Park Inn in Sonoma was the last hotel built in Sonoma more than 15 years ago. MacArthur Place has celebrated 20 years, and we were the second to the last hotel built in Sonoma, along with Lodge in Sonoma. We both opened about the same time. So this occupancy growth and this $1.4 million increase in TOT for the city has been generated by the same 7 hotels for the last 15 years here in Sonoma, with no new additional hotels coming online. Just a little bit, this is the requirement of the California code that we are under. We need to let you know there have been no changes to the boundary of the TID. We have made no improvements, maintenance, or activities for the fiscal year. The cost of our activities have been provided in the financial statements which were submitted with our report. The method of our assessment is 2% gross for short-term rentals of less than 30 days on all hotels, B&Bs, and vacation rentals. We do not have any surplus or deficit revenues that are carried forward from a previous year, and we do not receive any other funding sources outside of the TID. The 2% is our only funding source. Then I'm going to turn it over to Johnny Westham to give you a little bit of an idea of our marketing activities for the last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. It's nice to see everybody again. I'm going to echo some sentiments from earlier and say wonderful city party. It was a gorgeous night. It was nice to see a lot of you out there at the plaza. Want to just go over our destination promise and the core makeup of the Visitors Bureau. Destination Promise, which was part of the research project, as Bill alluded to a moment ago, 7% of their funding goes to research. And part of the research project last year was a destination strategy. Out of the destination strategy, we created a destination promise. And that promise is something that we asked our member community and the business community to embody when welcoming visitors to Sonoma. And it's more about making people feel like guests. And we felt that after doing a lot of research in about a 12-month study that the perfect sentiment for the city of Sonoma and Sonoma Valley as a whole is it's easy to enjoy our relaxed wine country lifestyle in a charming vintage escape. Experience the true taste of California, welcoming and natural friendly, the art of enjoying life. And so there's a lot that goes on inside that destination promise, and we want to make sure that resonates through our advertising program and through the partnerships that we have here locally. Our mission, and it echoes a lot of the same background and things that go into the creation of the Tourism Improvement District, helped influence a little bit more of the direction that we do, or that we impose, so that we mirror what we're doing with the funds that we receive from the Tourism Improvement District. So our mission is to serve visitors, members, and our community, promoting Sonoma Valley as a premier travel destination with the purpose of enhancing its economic vitality. And the vision of the Visitors Bureau is to build awareness of Sonoma Valley and position it as an overnight, midweek, and year-round destination, continuing to enhance the visitor experience. And for purposes of advertising and working with the Tourism Improvement District, our main focus is to fill off-season room nights, mostly in midweek, which is the need period, which really is November through April. And for purposes of the advertising media schedules that we'll talk about in just a few moments, most of that money is spent during the November to April time periods, with very little money being spent in the summertime, other than just to maintain things like TripAdvisor websites and those type of things. So the direct Tourism Improvement District benefits are highlighted here, and we'll go point by point. But again, it's about the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau implemented an integrated marketing and promotional campaign that aimed to increase visibility and awareness of Sonoma, drive overnight stays, and generate community support through special projects. The first bullet point is that we host the official website of the destination, SonomaValley.com, and on that website we have various areas where we highlight Sonoma proper hotel or Tourism Improvement District hotel. That website generated about 270,000 unique visitors last year, which we hope is the first point of contact for them booking travel to Sonoma. The TID, we include a TID section in the visitor's guide, which we print 100,000 copies. We have member hotel distribution at our two visitor centers, one on the Plaza at the Carnegie Library and the other at Cornerstone. We have maintained a relationship with TripAdvisor, owning the Sonoma Valley page, so we have a lot of content control on how we present ourselves on TripAdvisor. On there, you can also book a hotel room, so we're offering booking services for our properties. We purchased boosted social media posts on Facebook and included TID hotels in our social media contest. There's digital stories. We work with press, travel writers, and journalists, and we also have photography and billboards and those type of things. So there is a lot of outreach specifically for these properties. To step back and take a larger look at what tourism means to Sonoma County, it's on par with the United States. We pull these numbers from the U.S. Travel Association and the state of California, and then also Sonoma County Tourism, Sonoma's Economic Development Board. And you'll see that in Sonoma County, there's 19,710 jobs that are related to tourism, 15 million in the United States. But the interesting part is that in Sonoma, 1 in 10 jobs are in the tourism industry, and then 1 in 9 for the United States. Economic impact locally is 1.2 billion, and small businesses equate 82% of the tourism businesses. Now, the research budget that we have this year, and Bill will go into a little bit more about the forecast of where the tourism improvement district's going, but we aim to provide local numbers, and we are finalizing our RFP process right now to identify a research institute that can put these numbers here for us locally, and we can pull out what it means to Sonoma proper and what it means to Sonoma Valley, and give a really good indication of what tourism means to this destination. On average, visitors spend 4 days in Sonoma County and had an average party size of 2. Spending was $379 per day. Most people, or most happen at restaurants, followed by lodging, retail, and tasting rooms. Restaurants are going to be much higher. It's at 87%. That's because we've seen a lot of day trip visitors to Sonoma. They have to eat. They don't necessarily have to stay, buy gas, or anything else, but people have to eat. And so we find that restaurants tend to trend higher in most destinations like Sonoma. So to talk a little bit more about how we spent the money, or how we spent the money on what we got in return. Starting with social media, we were able to increase our Facebook likes by 26% to just 37,000 followers. Twitter followers, which hasn't really been a focus for us, increased by 30% to 3,142. The most interesting is Instagram, because it's such a beautiful destination, such a scenic destination. People want to share those moments with other people. We've increased our Instagram by 75% to 26,100 followers. In terms of our advertising campaign, we've taken the money and as you know, Bill mentioned that I believe there's $750,000 came into the TID last year, and as we whittle that down, we spend about $320,000 of that on advertising. And again, it happens between November and April. Total impressions was 244.5 million impressions, and that's worldwide. TV alone equated to 40.3% of that, and digital impressions was 163.85, and a lot of that concentrated in the Bay Area. And we just did a research project with Visa credit cards. So we found that out of $273 million being spent with boots on the ground transactions in Sonoma, 222 million of that comes from the Bay Area, followed by Los Angeles, and then we go to New York and Texas and Florida. So our primary market is the Bay Area. That's where we're pulling a lot of our business from, and then Southern California and beyond. So that's where we want to see a lot of our spend go, because we see a lot of return on investment there. TripAdvisor, we had a total reviews of 46,309 reviews on TripAdvisor, and our database, which is our consumer database, is 61,426. And that's who we talk to on a monthly basis through newsletters, email blast, and alerting them on new and upcoming things to do. This here is a sample of our website, which we launched in April 2016. It's an upgrade from our previous website and allows us to have a complete control of content on it, which allows us to update stories and things like that as they are relevant to whatever's going on in the community. So you'll see the pop-out window that's closest to you on the right-hand side there. We do have a call-out on the homepage that has TID-specific hotels, storyboard on top where you can find lodging. And then also there's an interactive map up in the right corner there. And if you hover over the name Sonoma, this pop-up populates, and you can go to hotels specifically for the city of Sonoma. So it's really integrated. It's a way to make it a lot more visitor and user-friendly, and pushes the products that we're looking for, and that's mostly the TID. The website performance, again, we had 238,000 visitors to the website, representing 613,000 views. Pages per view per visit was 2.58, and time on site was 2 minutes and 18 seconds, which is a long time. The interesting part in this year compared to what we reported on last year is handheld devices equates to 55% of the activity on our website. Last year it was about 48%, so we did see a 7% increase there. Seeing, looking at our analytics, we see a lot of people in Sonoma, a lot of people in Napa, a lot of people in San Francisco using their mobile devices to find more information about Sonoma. So whether that's last-minute trips or just people wandering around or exploring, they're using their mobile phones. So we'll continue to enhance that. One of the interesting parts, we're going to go to age for a second, is the 25 to 34-year-old age bracket continues to be high, and that was consistent before I started here 2 years ago, followed by the 55 and 64-year-old groups, and then falling back to 35 and 44. We're not going to get a lot of, attraction from the 18 to 24-year-old group, but the 25 to 34-year-old group, we believe, is a more affluent, younger audience that's coming from the city. In terms of visitors to the website, 21,426 came from the international market, representing Canada, UK, Australia, India, Germany, and Brazil. And the highest producers for domestic traffic to the website was California, Texas, Florida, New York, Illinois, mostly concentrated in Chicago, and Arizona. And that's why I believe American Airlines added a new flight into Santa Rosa, because of the high demand in Arizona. Public relations, you can see here, it kind of follows the same trend of our spending on advertising and things like that. We received a lot of press during the off-peak months. Look at January here, we had 498 million impressions. That was from a major story that we received. And then in February, the value was 13.9 million. All that equated over the course of the year, we had a total value of public relations, which is money we don't have to spend, but value that we get around the world, was close to 30 million, and total views was 1,130,357,893, which is pretty significant. But you can see on the right-hand side here the outlets that have visited Sonoma. A lot of them visit on their own. The U.S. report or the World Report in U.S. News named Sonoma one of the best small towns in the U.S. to visit. That did not come through the Visitors Bureau. That came from a travel writer who visited Sonoma, felt compelled to write something about it, and they went back to their respective publication and wrote that story. So I think it's a testament to how they were welcomed in Sonoma and what they felt when they visited here. So it's kind of a neat thing. But we try to work with as many writers and journalists as we can to have control over that. Fam trips are familiarization tours where we actually bring media or tour operators or travel operators to Sonoma to educate them on the product, so they can go back and talk about it in an accurate way and know exactly what they're talking about. So we brought out travel writers from the Food Network, Fast Traveler, New York Times, Forbes, About.com, which is launching a new website called Trip Savvy, and then Zagat as part of our Sonoma Valley Delicious campaign, which was featured in January and received a tremendous amount of visitation to the website. Advertising and media. These are the advertising outlets that we purchased ads in, or commercials on, or did special offers with, like TravelZoom, those type of things. This is where we find the highest concentration of return on our investment, and that's how we're able to produce the numbers that we had on the slides a few moments ago. But across the bottom here, you can see a sample of the different ads that we launched this previous year. Really focusing on the arts, on the historic value of Sonoma, talking about Jack London, M.K. Fisher, those people who made Sonoma their home or invested in this destination or in this community. So we want to give back to them, but also look at the arts and the culture that makes Sonoma such a unique community. TripAdvisor, we talked about a few moments ago. This is just showing you where the hotels land on the page, but also that they can be booked off of that website as well. And for my last slide, one of the main focuses that the board has given me this year and last year was to focus on midweek group business, where midweek group business is where we can sell to a larger body of people, and our focus is 15 to 50, where they will go to a hotel property, maybe stay there for the duration of the day, doing seminars and those type of things, and go out into the community and spend money in a variety of places, whether it be wineries, venues, restaurants, and so on and so forth. So this is a sample of the trade shows that we attended last year. We're having a lot of really good conversations with the luxury group. We felt that the prices of Sonoma average daily rates are substantially higher than some of our competitive sets. So we want to focus on people and visitors and groups who can afford this destination, but also respect the destination and have a good sense of community. So Cvent is the largest in the world, but we're able to drill down North Star, MPI, and Luxury Meeting Summit. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm going to go ahead and switch this back over to Bill Bloom.
Just a couple closing comments about the future. One of the things I note in the occupancy level chart that I presented earlier was you may have noticed that in the last fiscal year, the occupancy did drop in Sonoma from 74% to 72%, and the off-season occupancy dropped from 67% to 61%. The reason for that was twofold, particularly the off-season occupancy. We had record rain, Highway 37 was closed, and that affected all of our businesses, and also Melody from the Lodge at Sonoma did a complete renovation of all of their guest rooms during that first quarter with a number of the rooms closed and out of service. So the combination of the Lodge having a number of rooms closed plus wet winter contributed to that drop in occupancy. For the first 6 months of this year, which is still in the last fiscal year, occupancy was down and revenues were down about 4.5% for the city of Sonoma. So that's about a $175,000 drop in TOT revenues that our goal for fiscal year 2017 and 18 is to get that back up to where it should be, get the TOT revenues and the sales tax revenue that was impacted by that, because the storm not only kept away the overnight visitors, but it also really affected the retail shops. A lot of local businesses really said they suffered not just from visitors not coming in, but also locals who were staying inside because of the wet weather. So we're hoping for better weather next year and to try to get that occupancy and revenue back again. One of the most exciting things we did this year's budget for the TID is to add heritage events, which was a topic of tonight's City Council meeting, so I was happy to see the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival here. We've always supported our community events with grants, but we added heritage events as a classification to that this year. So those events, and we're still working with the city on developing a multi-year contract with them, they won't actually have to apply in the traditional format for a grant. They would just be have a contract for funding from the Tourism Improvement District. And those heritage events that we've identified are the Native Sons Flag Day celebration, the 4th of July Parade and the 4th of July fireworks, the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival, Mexican Independence Day, and the lighting of the Sonoma Plaza also falls under heritage and community events. So the combination of TID grant funding for community events, heritage events, the funding of visitor services, and what am I forgetting? And the lighting of the plaza is at 35% of our total budget, with the remaining amount used for marketing and destination advertising. But we're going up to 35% for community and heritage events and Tourism Visitors Bureau operations. Our group meeting efforts are going to continue next year. Those have been very successful at driving midweek business, and Melody Lanthorn-Gale, the general manager of the Lodge, who brings a lot of meeting and group sales experience, heads up our group sales subcommittee. So we appreciate her efforts on that. And we're going to continue to market and promote and try to drive overnight visitors to Sonoma. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the council at this point?
I do. I have a question for the city attorney. I reviewed, let me just pull it up here real quick. I reviewed the Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994, and I was looking at the permissible uses for TID funds, and I'm looking at, let me see here. question I have is I've been told a number of times that the TID only allows for funds to be spent on advertising promotion primarily. And I read the law, and it looks to me, let me just find it, sorry. I'm looking at section 36613, activities. Activities means but is not limited to promotion of public events, furnishing of music, promotion of tourism, marketing and economic development, providing security, sanitation, graffiti removal, street and sidewalk cleaning, and other municipal services supplemental to those normally provided by the municipality, and activities which benefit businesses and real property located in the district. So I'm wondering, I guess I'm confused about what I've heard, that we can't do any activities really other than promote tourism or do marketing, when it looks like the law allows for a broad spectrum of activities, and one of the you know, sort of like emblematic of that is the question of like who should repair the bathrooms on the plaza. It's really nice for tourists to come here and have a decent looking bathroom. I think a request was made, well, why can't the TID, since that's a service for tourists as well as locals, participate in refurbishing them? And I was told that that's not a permissible use of these funds. So I have a general question about what can these funds be used for?
The controlling documents ultimately become those that were agreed upon back in 2014 when the TID was extended for 10 years. And at that time, under law, the city was required to approve several documents, one of which was the management district plan. And in the plan, by law, it's supposed to spell out what activities the assessment funds are to be used for. That management district plan actually was incorporated by reference into an agreement between the nonprofit and the city, an agreement that the law required to be entered into and signed by both parties. And it's in that management district plan then you find the source of the information you're looking for. That is, what can the money be spent for? If you take a look at the management district plan, it lays out on page, I don't know if you have this document in front of you, on page...
Is that part of the packet? Sorry. No, it's not.
But on pages 5 and 6, there's a list of what the annual assessment is to be used for. And sales and marketing is chief among those activities. That same management district plan goes on to describe...
Can you just, sorry, give me the site again? What page
Sure,
is
it's
it?
page 5.
Thanks.
In the lower left-hand corner, there is a footer that has a date of July 18, 2014. At least that's the one I'm looking at. So the parties back in 2014 selected amongst the activities that you, Council Member Harrington, have outlined in the law, selected from those the specific kinds of activities that this assessment district was authorized to spend money on. And it set forth those in this plan. It then also set forth a budget in indicating that 85% of the budget was to be spent on sales and marketing, but did provide that that could deviate 15% by agreement between the city and the TID nonprofit. So I think maybe that's the source of some of the information you're getting, is that the management district plan itself limited the kinds of things that the assessment money could be used for. And I think that was partly motivated by the lodging businesses themselves, that they were willing to be assessed 2% or have their customers pay an additional 2% for every night of stay, but they were interested in focusing the expenditures of those funds on efforts that would increase the occupancy.
And can that plan be changed?
It can if the nonprofit organization agrees to the change, because the agreement between the nonprofit corporation and the city specifically incorporates this management district plan into the agreement itself.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Further questions from the council at this time? Ms. Agramonte.
Thank you. Kathy, you and I had a discussion, when we were talking about the heritage and community events. these are funds that are used, obviously, to support a community events. And what did that number come to? We were talking about that today. I'm sorry, it's in the budget. So.
Excuse me. It's the last page of the packet outline that. So traditionally, and Bill can correct me if I've missed this, but there has been a community grant program for events that the board has had for some time, and that is $40,000, and they have an annual opportunity for groups to come forward, and then they look at funding events that are going to occur during the off season. There has been some events such as Vintage Festival that has been funded during that as well, is my understanding, and yet so this year the board created an additional $25,000 for heritage events to really kind of peel those events out that are primarily for residents, but people do come and visit and enjoy some of these events as well. So those heritage events were delineated separately from the community grant funding program. So the community fund grant program, well, the community grant event program is still $40,000. There's $25,000 for the heritage event, and then there's the $75,000 for the lighting of the plaza. So those are the three items under kind of community events that is within the TID budget.
So I'm so, may I continue? So what am I thinking? So I read with Nuestra Voz and also the Vintage Festival, the community benefit, that was very prominent, that these events are a community benefit. And I feel the same way about that TID support of these community events, all huge events here for Sonoma. I don't know what they generate within the respect to business. I would imagine possibly people are staying overnight here, but I think that this is really very, to me, it proves that the money goes back into the community for this, we get a pretty good bang for our buck. And I don't know if that really, really expresses that here with our numbers, but that's just the way I view it.
I have a couple of questions from probably someone back there, but so at first I was going to ask if you guys had a reserve fund and then what that was like. I saw in the agreement that there is a set contribution, so could anybody talk about what your reserve fund looks like?
We don't currently have a reserve fund, but we have just at our recent board meeting, we talked about establishing a reserve fund in the event of an emergency, such as another earthquake or something like that, or even the rains that we had this winter.
I thought I saw in the breakdown. Oh, I guess I'm looking at the reserve / contingency / renewal 10%. Page 5. I don't know. Does anybody have any opinions on my question? I see on page 5 that we were looking at that it mentioned the reserve fund, 10%. So does anybody know? I guess we don't have one. Why not? No information?
All I can say is that the board did start talking about it. I think the TID is different than a ongoing governmental agency with employees or that type of thing. Again, the goal of the TID is to increase people coming and spending the night, etc. So it's more of a rare thing that you would need special kind of reserve funding. But it is something like more, I think, like when Napa, the earthquake, or it's that type of thing, more of a natural disaster, or like the flooding, potentially. But I think there's always an opportunity to shift funds within a year. It's like if something happens, like maybe we're not going to do these kind of ads, we're now going to shift and do these kind of ads. So I think part of this, my sense, is why it's a little different entity / animal than when you have employees and ongoing concerns, again, they have an ability to shift dollars through the year and not do something that maybe they had planned to do if something came up.
No, well, I have a discussion point related to reserve, but my next question is, well, so at this point, I guess there's discussions going forward about a reserve fund, but there's no existing such fund.
That's correct. And it's interesting, the way the TID is funded, we get paid by the city several months after the funds are collected. So oftentimes the funds we receive in one year were, in one fiscal year, were from the prior fiscal year. So we always have a cash flow coming every quarter from the city. So we feel like if there was an emergency, we'd be able to dedicate some of those incoming funds for
Well,
an
I'm thinking
emergency.
less emergency and just if you look at the numbers of the expectations of what the TID would even bring in, and right now it's like a boom time, it's doing awesome, but the time when it would be perhaps the most useful is when it's back down to maybe what it looked like when it started. So I guess there's like a short-term reserve fund, but more of a, like, my next question was, is there anyone, you might not know this answer, but I'm gonna ask it. Is it like projections for the economy and tourism, either from the state of California, what they see the trends happening in the future, 3-5 years?
Well, I'm not sure Johnny might be able to better answer that. My biggest concern is there's probably at least 24, and I think this came up at the last city council meeting, 24 projects that are either under construction or near completion in Napa County and Sonoma County outside of the city limits of Sonoma. So we're looking at a very, very large increase in available rooms in our closest competition. So I think that's probably one of our biggest threats is increase in room nights right outside our door.
Let's see this on the questions. And Mr. Edwards.
So this is also a cooperative effort between a bunch of companies, but each individual company is also owned by somebody or an entity or publicly traded group, and they're also looking after their profit margin as well. So they may have a contingency as this group. The corporations and the individual owners are also operating their businesses as well. So I think there's the tactics that are being performed are this ties into it, but there's also that level of operations and direction that the companies are taking as well.
Did you have a follow-up question? Comment? All right, at this time, I'm going to, thank you, Mr. Blum.
Thank you.
I'm going to take it out to the public for public comment.
Hopefully this old laptop will work. You know what? It's not going to work. It's not the correct. Oh, there we go. The other. It's the old-fashioned, not HDMI. Anyway, I sent this to you, and I'm not sure if that's going to show up. But first of all, I want to applaud the Tourism Improvement District for funding a lot of what we need on for the events and such. I think that's great, and I think
I would say traditionally we don't allow presentations during public comment, but
We do.
you can.
We have in the past.
Something you could send it to us afterwards. We can peruse.
I've sent it to you before, but that's
Okay.
fine. It's not working anyway.
Yeah.
But you have in the past, by the way. So anyway,
not this year.
I hope you give me a little more time here since this is not working. In any case, you have additional, also got vacation rentals. Oh, there it is. In any case, the vacation rentals also put money in. And you see the little graph here showing the trajectory of the money. And the part of the question I had when I looked at this was, well, are the funds for advertising really doing anything for this trajectory? Could be the economy. Here's the Dow Jones. Same thing, dipped 2008, 2009, and went back up. But that might not be the whole picture here. And the occupancy, as you saw earlier, this is from the national, nationwide. You had the same dip, 2008, 2009, increasing and then a flattening out and projected to be flat or down slightly next 2 years, to answer one of your other questions. And this is the total gross hotel revenue for over the same period of time. And you can see it's continued to go up the past couple of years. And I did a calculation, and we've got the U.S. gross revenue went up 38.4% over that time. But my question is also, and I just did a little bit more research, is how did that compare to, say, Napa and Sonoma? And don't have all the figures in, but over the same period of time, looks like Napa's up about 50%, and the county of Sonoma is in the mid 55% increase over the same time. And so, and hear a lot about, recently about people coming to Sonoma County rather than Napa County because they're getting tired, it's too busy over there. So how much are we getting a spillover? And how much of the advertising that we're having here, we're drawing the tourists because of the Sonoma County tourism advertising. They have a budget and it's 10 times that of the TID. And so, any case, that question. So there's a lot more questions of how this advertising is it really affecting, and how good is it? We need more information. There's a lot more statistics that can be gathered to find out, is the advertising really bringing in it, or are people coming in for other reasons? And then there's a whole look at what are the negative impacts, especially such as fire and roads. East County, Bodega Bay is having issues maintaining their emergency fire and ambulance, and the chief said that 80% of the calls were from tourists. So I'll cut it at that. Thank you for letting me go over a few seconds.
Thank you very much. In case anybody's watching and they're going to show up next time with a presentation, it will not be allowed. Is there any further public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for discussion. Ms. Harrington?
So I think if you'll indulge me, I'd just like to take a moment to share my thoughts on the TID. I think that it should be pretty clear why I wanted to have a discussion about the Visitors Bureau at the same time as the TID, because the Visitors Bureau is how the TID operates. That is the operation of the TID, and they are part and parcel. And in order to get a global perspective of what work is being done and how it's being paid for, it strikes me as completely logical to look at those things at the same time. And as we talk about visitors services and tourism and advertising, it makes sense to me that we would look at how do we contribute to it, how is it paid for, and what do we get. And so I would like to have that conversation at the same time next year. I think it is illogical to have those discussions at different times. With regard to the reports before us, I think that there is some data here, but it's fairly narrative, and I think that in terms of the dollars spent, my perspective is that the amount that we can charge in TOT is limited by the amount that goes to the TID. So we're not going to make our hotels less competitive by charging a higher overall tax rate than our surrounding neighbors. So to the extent that we have a 2% TID, that is 2% that we cannot charge in TOT, because then we would be making you uncompetitive, right? So even though it is an assessment on the tourists that stay there, in fact, the city cannot venture into collecting that 2% as TOT. And I think a lot of people believe, it's a common misperception, that the city gives the hotel 2% of TOT, and it's more nuanced than that, because in effect, we are foregoing collecting that revenue ourselves by letting you collect it for these purposes, which to some extent have a mutual benefit in that when you do well, we do well. So I'm not saying we don't have that benefit, but there is a cost, which is we are not collecting that tax revenue. So the question I have overall is if I am looking at this, I'm looking at the management district plan, and in here on page 8, it says the total 10-year improvement and service plan budget is projected at approximately $550,000 annually, or $5,500,000 through 2025. And because of our economy, which we all know is so strong, and also your marketing efforts, the TID funds are much higher than that. And so the question I have, really like as a business owner and a person who lives here, is since the hotels are doing so well, is there, because of the inability to collect that tax because it's dedicated to the TID, could the hotels be contributing more to their own advertising? Is it right that the city does not collect that amount of tax, or is the benefit of the bargain sufficient so that we are getting more back by not collecting it as TOT? I believe, as a business owner myself, that every business is going to do whatever is necessary to promote themselves to make the most amount of money for their business. I think that's business 101. And so at the time when we discussed agendizing the Visitors Bureau contract, there was sort of this thought that was put forward that but for the city subsidizing this advertising or these programs, that they would not exist. I don't believe that premise myself, because I think you're savvy business owners, and if a program works, that some % of your profits are going to go into advertising your own business. So my broad question is, you know, given that the TID is so much higher than was ever anticipated, and that these businesses are doing better, I guess, than they've ever done before, based on your own reports, you know, just that's sort of the lens that I'm looking at it through. And I don't believe that any business that benefits from marketing itself, if the city did not subsidize that in some way, would not then pay to market their business in a different way. And I understand from tonight's presentation that there's a different perspective, which is that basically you're paying for it yourself, and this is your marketing budget, and it's an assessment. It's not TOT, and that it's a separate amount of revenue. So I can see that there's the two perspectives, that you're saying, well, we are paying for it ourselves because this 2% tax on our clients, you know, our visitors. But the other perspective is, but for having that 2%, we would collect that 2% as TOT. So I think there are two perspectives on what the actual assessment is. I also think, just for like transparency, that having a budget that shows the numbers that, you know, from the Visitors Bureau side, since the bulk of the money goes to the Visitors Bureau, is fair to people reviewing this. So like, what % of the money is spent on salaries? What are the salaries? What % is spent, like what are the actual dollars tied to advertising? But a clearer look, as would be required, certainly of us as a public agency, maybe not that detailed, but some more hard facts about exactly how the dollars are spent, I think would be helpful.
Ms. Agramonte. Thank you. So our last speaker, whom I have a lot of respect for, because I don't think in the way that he does, and I don't think I could ever achieve that. But what I think I heard in my intuitive mind was the whole world is successful, so that means Sonoma should be successful. I don't really feel that way. I feel that Sonoma is successful because we market Sonoma. They don't have to come, no one has to come here, but you have to bring Sonoma to the attention of the world, of the United States, of the Bay Area. You're saying mostly the Bay Area. And I think that's something that's very important. As I said, I think the money that is collected, which I think the city is paid for to collect the money, it's going back out into the community, similar to other nonprofits that do work. And so I'm pleased with that, and I agree with Amy. There are other details that are not in here that probably would, you know, be good for us to take a look at. But you know, I really think that we are successful here in Sonoma because we are not me, but the TID pays for the advertisement. And I think it's very important because I don't believe business people would do this. I don't think they have the wherewithal to do that. And I also think that I look at the TID really as a consortium. You have your board, you represent different organizations, hotels, stores here in Sonoma, and I think that's the difference. Because if you have people, different things going on here in Sonoma, promoting Sonoma, how do you know they're going to have a focused message? You have a focused message. And one of the things I believe in here for me in Sonoma, and I know everyone else on this council does as well. I appreciate the marketing you do. I think, as Amy has added, possibly there are some things we can look at. But here's what I know. This council cannot cure cancer. This council can't send any satellite to Mars. We are here just to serve. That's it. That's simple. So anything beyond that, I think I'm almost out of my realm of understanding. But I think this was good for us to do this. And as I said, I'm supportive of the TID just because I can't do this. I'm a fundraiser. I couldn't tell you how to market. I can get money out of people, but I don't know how to market 12 years ahead. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And I appreciate, Amy, you're bringing it up.
Yeah, I can bring a little clarity to some of the discussion tonight. I do agree that I think that Business Bureau and the TID probably should be presented at the same time, because in a way they are together somewhat. We always have to remember that the City of Sonoma is also a partner of that group. With that said, the TOT is something that can be passed, has to be passed by the electorate. It's the City Council decision. And I remember back when the TID was being formed, I think I was a candidate for the seat that I have now, and it did not pass at the council level for a while. It actually stirred around for about 2 years, which I thought was very sad because at the time, and I still continue to think this, that Sonoma and any tourist destination needs to be advertised. The discussion on the table, and I do understand a lot that Councilmember Harrington is saying, and I've spoke with her privately because she's the one that I talked to about that issue, and I think that one of the biggest, probably A plus B equals C, that is how the revenues have went up from 460,000 to 700,000, where the money is being spent. I think it's more of a communication. As we're looking down the line to be fiscal responsible, that's why the TOT being raised has to be an election, because there's fiscal responsibility in any government agency. The TID, I don't think that it's not a smoking gun out there. I don't think it was a trick by anyone. Everyone knew that the reason that the hoteliers would want to form a TID along with the City of Sonoma is to try to get the occupancy rate to a higher level, because we went through scary times in 2008. Possibly we could. And we were talking about reserves and different things we should do. I agree, and we talked about this at the last meeting, that we are going to have a discussion, about the contract with the Sonoma Visitors Bureau. And I really left the meeting a week ago kind of saddened by the fact that I really felt that some members of the public didn't understand what we were talking about. We're just trying to do a reset and take a look at everything. And like my comments a week ago at the special meeting, was this council is a 13-year season, 13 years, where we've had council members that have been on this council for 20 years. Ken Brown was on for 16 years. And I think we need to look at it, because if the new hotel does come in, the TOT could be, or TID could be up to 1.3, 1.5 million, depending on what happens. And that's just a discussion that we have to have, and we are going to have that. So I don't want to go off topic on that, but I just wanted to give a little clarity that I think that there's a strong partnership between the Visitors Bureau and the City of Sonoma, and I would never want any discussion from myself up here for anyone to think any different, because I do remember when Sonoma did have a major issue when our economy went down, and I want to make sure that we keep the balance in tourism, and I think that that's I'm hopefully that's the discussion that Councilmember Harrington wants to have in the future, and it sounds like we will.
Mr. Edwards.
So shame on you guys for bringing 3.7 million to the city of Sonoma. You know, I'll go back to the comments that we made before. I'm very happy with the performance. I don't like to take things away from people that have been successful. I mean, I've watched this. I've lived here, I don't know if longer than you, David, but I don't know about you, Matt. About 25 years or so, but been working here for almost 40. And I've seen the town empty. I've seen all the businesses empty in town, where you could rent a building on the plaza that now is probably $8 or $9 grand a month, where you could get it for $750 or $1,000 a month. And I think what this group has done, what the industry has done, but furthermore, all of the businesses that are here, including the folks that put the screens on the iPhones and other things that are all happening here that I don't know if everybody's aware of the kind of businesses and the diversity of businesses we have here, but all those people are bringing people here as well. And I just see, the sound to me, or the hint to me, is that we're going to slap the hands of a group that's been very, very successful and achieved with what I believe is a small investment the kind of returns that are here. But I also, and I'll reiterate it, I've probably said it 40 or 50 times, we need this group more now than ever, because we have 1,100 hotel rooms that are opening up around us. And all we're going to get is the traffic. That's all we're going to get here. We have to go from this, whatever the number is, this 72% occupancy. I'd like to see 85% occupancy. I'd like to see these groups come in. And I don't believe that we have enough rooms for the type of groups that we could bring in. I mean, between the folks that are here, I don't think there's enough rooms to bring certain types of groups here. So, you know, I'm happy with what they've done, and I've seen New Estravos, for example. This council, under the leadership of Lori Gallion, I remember her saying, "Oh, we don't need to support that group," and this council didn't support New Estravos and Mexican Independence Day. I personally did, because I believe in that. I believe in supporting those types of groups. When we sat up here and said, farmers market, we're only going to charge them $1,800 a year for 26 events that bring in 50,000 people to the plaza on their annual basis. I mean, I think we're talking out of both sides of our mouths here. And I think this group has done a fantastic job. I'm the only person sitting in this room that fought against the Rosewood Hotel coming up on the hillside because it was in the wrong place. But the kind of work that we're doing now, what I've seen with these groups, and the type of revenue they're bringing back to the city, I think we need to be really careful what we do with this.
So the big question about tourism that's brewing is, how big should this industry be? Should we add new businesses inside this industry, and where should they be located? And I think that the answer to that question is something that is largely in control of the council, whereas the question of how can we keep our existing tourism businesses healthy is an answer that we have delegated to our partners, the Visitors Bureau and the TID. And it's important for all of us to keep our businesses healthy, not only because of the tax revenue, but that's also how we get to have a lot of the nice things that residents enjoy. I thank you for your report. I feel that this relationship we have together is a work in progress, and as things evolve, then both sides will evolve also. And I'm so proud of the huge contribution to the Heritage Festivals, and I'm thrilled that concept is picking up. And even some people classify the holiday lights as like something for the tourists, but personally, I think it's my favorite time to be on the plaza because it's magical. I am slightly confused about the reserve fund question, but sounds like you all are ahead of me. And seeing as how this is probably, if we're not at the peak, we're probably near the peak, and looking further ahead, you know, in the city, in our budgeting, we're preparing ourselves for the future. I'm hoping that, you know, similarly, now that we have all this money for marketing, we can have the foresight to squirrel some away for the days when we're all suffering and actually people are wanting tourists to come. But besides that, thanks for being a willing partner, and I think that we will have lots of discussions related to our side and planning and traffic and all those things, and it's nice to know that all of you are listening, and I can see it in your report from last year and your budget going forward. So I think at this time we need to take an action to accept the report, if anyone is feeling so moved.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the report from the TID.
No, sorry. You can, Gary.
He beat you to it. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Pro Tem Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Cook?
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte?
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington?
Aye.
Mayor Henley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Item number 8. I feel like we haven't done this in forever because we've been off calendar. Council member reports and comments. Anybody?
I don't have any.
Oh, I put this on my Facebook, and I also emailed the city manager about it. But for Sonoma Clean Power customers, now through October 31st, as long as the funds last, there's significant discounts on buying an electric vehicle, up to $3,500 off the purchase. So if any of your constituents, or, you know, people you talk to are interested in buying an electric vehicle, it's a good time to get one and be a Sonoma Clean Power member.
Thank you. Anybody else? I had a meeting for the Sonoma County Mayors and Council Members Legislative Committee, of which I am the vice chair, and we had a special guest, Senator Mike McGuire, who is not our senator, but I think that he has adopted all of the Sonoma County cities, even those outside of his district. So he gave us a little report about California, and some of these things I thought were pretty fascinating. There was lots of amazing things happening about California, our jobs, our economy, but I was curious to learn that we are about to surpass Great Britain in GDP, making us number 5 in the world. But also equally interesting was his list of threats that's facing the city or the state, and I think a lot of those are similar to things that we are seeing in the city. One is the cost of retirement and health care liabilities. Schools, we are 44th in how much we spend per person on our students. We will soon be number 42nd, but we are losing funding for technical and ag training. Roads is a problem everywhere. Large problem with homelessness. 25% of the 114,000 homeless in the state are 25% are veterans. And actually, the average chronic homeless person costs $100,000 in taxpayer dollars per year. On the cannabis front, they are lagging slightly behind in meeting their date for regulations related to recreational use. And otherwise, we live in a great state, and I'm proud to be here. So, and one of the things that we're going to be putting together, which I think will be useful to everybody, is starting to compile data on how our representatives vote on things, even at the committee, so that we can pass it on to all of you, so that you could know also. Ms. Edwards.
I have one comment I'd like to make. Sandra Bernstein had her 20th anniversary on the plaza on Sunday night, which I attended, and it was one of the most amazing things. The only live music was the French guy with his little hand crank thing. It was fantastic, mostly local people. I probably knew at least 100 people that were there. And it was just fantastic. It was very quiet, and I checked with our city staff. They said they came in, they set up, they cleaned up, and left it as they found it. So thank you to Don.
And also thank you for everyone that came to the city party. Thank you to the staff that worked so hard in bringing it together. If there's no further council comments, we will move on to item number 10, city manager comments and announcements.
Okay, just a few things. I also want to thank everyone for attending the city party, and Lisa Jansen, who's our community events partnering to put that together. As council well knows, the city puts some funding for this event, but we also had great support from a number of our businesses, Sonoma Chevrolet, Sonoma Valley Inn, Redwood Credit Union, and Sonoma Raceway. So again, it's this partnership, and then we were able to reach out to a number of the nonprofits. We were able to sell food and also supply some food and beverages to folks attending, but also make some money for nonprofits. So again, that kind of 3D wheel that we like to do here in Sonoma really worked well. Also, just a few things. I really wanted to thank our Public Works crews. They do a lot of good work out there, and sometimes these things are invisible. So I thought I'd highlight a few things that were visible. Last Sunday, I saw a bit of graffiti on the Ig Valley Bridge. Emailed in, within 24 hours, it was gone. And that kind of immediately taking care of graffiti. We don't see a lot of graffiti in town. We're really fortunate, but when we do see it, I was just, really pleased with staff, how quickly they turn around. I think that's really important. There's also a lot of pavement repair work going on out there and sanitation, and we're prepping for the street rehabilitation and water replacement service that's happening in Avenue del Oro, that neighborhood. And as council knows, we had 2 huge oak trees that came down in the Valley Cemetery during the storms this winter. And so it took quite a bit of time to kind of clean that up, fix the irrigation, but the crews have replaced the broken curbing that goes around gravestones, and we'll be putting some of those gravestones back in place. So again, it takes some time to do these things, but just want to thank the crew. That we don't have a very large public works maintenance crew, but I think they work very hard and are working hard to keep our many assets and quality of life up. Thank you.
So this time, I'm not adjourning. Am I retiring?
You're retiring back into closed session, correct?
Time the council will retire back into closed session.
Thank you.